She took a step back, trembling when she saw the mark on my face. "This can't be real," she whispered. The massive space station Nexus Prime floated in the void between stars, its silver surface gleaming under the light of distant suns. "Commander." Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck watching alien ships arrive one by one. Each vessel looked different from the others, some long and sleek, others round like metal bubbles, and a few that seemed to shift shape as they moved. "First contact," she whispered to herself. "After all these years of wondering if we're alone." Sarah touched the small communication device in her ear. "Control, this is Chen. All ships have arrived. We're ready to begin." "Copy that, Commander," came the reply from Earth. "Good luck out there. Make humanity proud." Sarah smiled and walked toward the main conference hall. Her boots clicked against the metal floor as she moved through the corridors. The station felt empty and cold, but she knew that would change soon. Today, humanity would meet the galaxy for the first time. The conference hall was huge, with a domed ceiling that showed the stars above. Tables were arranged in a circle, each one designed for different types of beings. Some had water tanks, others had special air systems, and a few glowed with strange lights. Sarah took her place at the human table. She wore her dress uniform with the United Earth insignia proudly displayed on her chest. Her ceremonial helmet sat on the table beside her, polished to perfection. The alien delegates began to enter the hall. Sarah tried not to stare, but it was hard. She had seen pictures and videos during her training, but seeing them in person was different. The Korthok representative entered first. He was tall and covered in dark scales, with forearms and eyes that glowed red. His movements were sharp and precise, like a predator. He nodded once to Sarah before taking his seat. Next came the ethereal council member, a being made of what looked like living light. It floated above its chair, constantly shifting between different colors. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music. "Welcome, children of Earth," it said. "We have waited long for this moment." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The way it said children made her feel small and young. More delegates arrived. The Zephyrians came in a group, their blue skin shimmering in the light. They looked the most human-like with 2 arms and 2 legs, but their eyes were completely black and they moved with a grace that seemed almost like dancing. The Crystalline Collective sent a representative that looked like a walking diamond. It clinked softly as it moved, and its voice sounded like wind chimes when it spoke. "We greet the newest species to join our community," it said to Sarah. "This meeting bring understanding between our peoples." Sarah stood and bowed slightly. "Thank you all for coming. Humanity is honored to meet you." The last to arrive was High Counselor Vexthera of the Zephorian delegation. She was clearly important. The other Zephorians made way for her as she entered. Her blue skin was marked with silver patterns that seemed to move in the light, and she wore robes that flowed like water. "Let us begin," announced the ethereal council member. "Today, we welcome humanity into the greater galactic community. As is tradition, the new species will remove all barriers and show themselves as they truly are." Sarah nodded and stood. This was the moment she had practiced for months. She reached for her ceremonial helmet and lifted it from her head. As soon as the helmet came off, something changed in the room. The air seemed to grow thick and heavy. Sarah shook out her brown hair and looked around the circle of delegates. Most of them seemed normal, but she noticed the Zephyrian delegation had gone very still. Their black eyes were all focused on her face. High Counselor Vexthera rose from her chair slowly. Her graceful movements had become shaky, and her silver patterns were pulsing rapidly. "No," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "It cannot be." Sarah frowned. "Is something wrong?" Vexthera took a step back, her whole body beginning to tremble. Her black eyes were locked on Sarah's left temple, where a small birthmark sat, just above her eyebrow. The mark was shaped like 3 lines that crossed each other, forming a simple pattern that Sarah had carried since birth. "This can't be real," Vexthera whispered, her voice growing stronger but filled with shock. Other delegates began to notice the commotion. The crystalline representative chimed softly, and the ethereal being's colors shifted to deep purple. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded the Korthok delegate, his red eyes flashing. But Vexera wasn't listening. She was staring at Sarah's birthmark as if she was seeing a ghost. The trisigil, she breathed. The mark of the Forerunners. But they vanished thousands of years ago. They cannot have returned. Sarah touched her birthmark unconsciously. I'm sorry, but I don't understand. This is just a birthmark. I've had it since I was born. It's just a birthmark. Vexera's voice cracked. Child, do you know what you carry on your face? The room had gone completely silent.
Ow.
Even the soft humming of the station's systems seemed to fade away. I know the mark, said the ethereal being, its colors now shifting. Between white and gold, it appears in the oldest stories of my people. The 3 lines that bind the galaxy together. The crystalline representative chimed again, more urgently this time. The ancient texts speak of this symbol. It marked the ones who came before, who lifted the younger races to the stars. Sarah looked around the room, confusion growing. I don't understand. What are you talking about? Vexera steadied herself against her chair. The Forerunners were the first to reach the stars. They helped dozens of species develop technology, guided us to new worlds, taught us to work together. But then they vanished without explanation. For thousands of years, we have wondered what happened to them. And now, said the Korthak delegate, his voice low and dangerous, one of them stands before us, claiming to be human. Sarah felt her heart racing. I am human. I was born on Earth, raised by human parents. I've never heard of these Forerunners before today. The mark doesn't lie, whispered Vexera. In all the galaxy and all the thousands of years since, the Forerunners disappeared. That symbol has never appeared on any living being. Until now. The room erupted in whispers and strange sounds as the delegates talked among themselves in their various languages. Sarah stood in the center of it all, her hand still touching her birthmark. What does this mean? She asked. Vexera looked at her with eyes full of wonder and fear. It means, child of Earth, that everything we thought we knew about the galaxy is about to change. 3 days had passed since the meeting at Nexus Prime, and the galaxy was in chaos. News of Sarah's birthmark had spread faster than light itself, carried by quantum communication networks to every corner of known space. Sarah sat in her quarters, aboard the human diplomatic ship New Horizon, staring at her reflection in the mirror. The 3 intersecting lines on her temple looked the same as always. But now they felt heavy with meaning she didn't understand. Commander Chen, came a voice from her communication panel. Dr. Martinez is here to see you. Send him in, Sarah replied, turning away from the mirror. Dr. Carlos Martinez entered, carrying a tablet filled with data. He was Earth's leading expert on alien cultures, and his face showed the strain of the past few days. Sarah, we need to talk, he said, setting the tablet on her desk. The reports from Earth are ... troubling. Sarah poured herself a cup of coffee and sat down. Troubling. After the news broke, we started scanning the population for similar marks. We found them, Sarah. Lots of them. Martinez activated the tablet, showing a world map covered in red dots. 12% of Earth's population has birthmarks identical to yours. Sarah nearly dropped her coffee. 12%? That's almost. 1 billion people. It gets worse. The marks aren't random. They follow genetic lines, passed down through families for generations. Some families have records going back hundreds of years, always dismissing them as simple birthmarks. Sarah studied the map. The red dots were everywhere, every continent, every major city. What about the archaeological teams? Any luck with the sites? Martinez switched to another screen, showing grainy photographs. Dr. Patel's team in India found something under the Deccan traps, stone structures that match building styles weave. Seen on 3 different alien worlds, carbon dating is impossible. The stones are older than they should be. But the construction techniques are too advanced for the time period. And the genetic analysis. That's where it gets really strange. Martinez pulled up a complex chart. Humans with the mark have genetic markers that don't match normal human evolution. It's like someone added extra code to our DNA, but it's been dormant for thousands of years. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Dormant until now? We think so? The markers are becoming active in people with the birthmarks. Nothing dangerous. But changes are happening. Before Sarah could ask what kind of changes, her communication panel chimed. Commander, urgent message from Fleet Command. Put it through, Sarah said. Dot roll. Harrison's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired and worried. Sarah, we have a problem. The Korthok Empire has called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. They're demanding that humanity be quarantined until we can prove we're not a threat. A threat? What? Sarah stood. Up. We just made first contact 3 days ago. It's not how they see it. According to their historical records, the Forerunners didn't just guide younger species. They controlled them.
Wow.
Some worlds were turned into servant states. Others were stripped of resources. The Korthok believe that if humanity really is descended from the Forerunners, we'll eventually try to reclaim our empire. Martinez leaned forward. Admiral, what about the species that supported the Forerunners? Surely not everyone fears them. That's the problem, Doctor. The galaxy is split. The Ethereal Council and the Crystalline Collective see this as the return of wise teachers. They want to welcome humanity with open arms and learn from us. But the Korthok Empire, the Savage Clans, and the Free Worlds Alliance think we're a threat that needs to be eliminated before we become too powerful. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. What's Earth's position? President Kumar is calling for calm and cooperation. She's offered to share all our research with the Galactic Council. But Sarah, there's something. Else our deep space sensors are picking up fleet movements. The Korthok are mobilizing their warships. Warships? Sarah's blood ran cold. Are they planning to attack? We don't know. But we're not taking any chances. The defense fleets are being recalled to protect Earth and the colonies. Sarah, I need you to get back to the negotiating table. You're our best hope for a peaceful solution. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah and Martinez alone in the quiet room. Carlos, tell me about the people with the marks. He said changes are happening. Martinez nodded grimly. Nothing dramatic, but documented. Enhanced pattern recognition, faster learning of complex systems, and an unusual ability to understand alien languages and technologies. Lieutenant Chen, no relation to you, figured out how to operate a Zephyrian computer system in 20 minutes. It should have taken weeks of training. This is happening to all of them. Only those whose marks have become active, about 30% so far, but the number is growing daily. Sarah walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were moving, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. There's something else, Martinez said quietly. The archaeological team found something in the ruins, a chamber with symbols that match your birthmark. When Dr. Patel touched the symbols, the entire structure came to life. Lights, computers, systems we don't understand, all of it activated by human touch. Sarah turned back to him. What kind of systems? We're not sure. Technology is far beyond anything we've seen, even from the advanced alien species. But Sarah, it responded to her, like it was waiting for someone with the right genetic markers. How many of these sites are there? We found 6 so far, all in different countries. Based on the alien records, there might be similar installations throughout the galaxy. Sarah felt the pieces of a massive puzzle clicking into place. The Forerunners didn't just disappear. They left behind a network of facilities, waiting for their descendants to find them. That's what we think. But Sarah, if we're right, then the Korthok might have good reason to be afraid. Technology like this could make humanity the dominant species in the galaxy. Or it could help us protect everyone, Sarah said. The question is, what were the Forerunners really like? Were they conquerors or protectors? Martinez packed up his tablet. I guess we'll find out. But Sarah, whatever you decide to do, decide quickly. The Korthok fleets will reach human space in 2 weeks. As Martinez left, Sarah remained at the window, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the truth about humanity's past was waiting to be discovered. And somewhere else, alien war fleets were preparing for a conflict that could determine the future of the galaxy. She touched her birthmark and felt a strange tingling sensation. Whatever the Forerunners had been, their legacy was now humanity's burden to bear. The attack came without warning. Sarah was reviewing diplomatic reports when the emergency alarms began blaring throughout the New Horizon. Red lights flashed in the corridors as crew members ran to their stations. Commander Chen to the bridge. Immediately came the urgent announcement. Sarah sprinted through the ship's corridors, her heart pounding. When she reached the bridge, Captain Rodriguez was standing over the tactical display, his face grim. "Report," Sarah demanded. "Korthok fleet just dropped out of hyperspace near New Geneva colony," Rodriguez said. 37 warships. There, demanding the colonists surrender for processing and evaluation. Sarah stared at the display showing the colony world. 2 million human settlers live there, including families with children. "What's our response time?" The defense fleet is 8 hours away. Colony security has maybe 40 ships, but they're no match for Korthok battlecruisers. "Open a channel to the Korthok fleet," Sarah ordered. The main screen flickered, showing the scaled face of Admiral Krexter, the Korthok military leader. His red eyes glowed with cold determination. "Commander Chen," he said, his voice a low growl, "your people will surrender peacefully, or we will take them by force. The galaxy will not risk another Forerunner uprising." "Admiral, we're not the Forerunners," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady. "We're humans. We want peace." "Peace." Krexter's laugh was harsh. "Your species carries the mark of our ancient oppressors. Already your people are developing the same abilities that once enslaved half the galaxy. We will not make the same mistake our ancestors did." The transmission cut off. Sarah watched in horror as the Korthok ships began moving toward the colony. "Captain, get us to New Geneva as fast as possible," Sarah ordered, "and contact all human ships in the area. We need every vessel we can get." As the New Horizon jumped to hyperspace, Sarah received reports from across human space. The Korthok weren't just attacking New Geneva, they had launched simultaneous strikes against 4 other colonies. Sarah came Dr. Martinez's voice over the comm. "I'm getting reports from Earth. The people with active birthmarks are having strange reactions. They're saying they can feel the attacks happening." "What do you mean, feel them?" "Lieutenant Chen is here with me. She says she can sense the location of every human ship in the area. And there's something else. Been able to predict the Korthok battle formations with 90% accuracy?" Sarah felt that familiar tingling in her birthmark. "Bring her to the bridge." Minutes later, Lieutenant Amy Chen arrived. She was young, maybe 25, with the same 3-line birthmark on her forehead. But her eyes held a strange intensity that Sarah had never seen before. "Commander," Amy said, "I can help. I don't understand how, but I can see the battle patterns. The Korthok are using a formation called Crushing Claw. They'll try to surround the colony and force surrender." "How do you know that?" Amy touched her birthmark. "It's like ... like I remember learning about it long ago. But I've never studied Korthok tactics." Sarah made a decision. "Amy, you're now my tactical advisor. Help me save those people." When they dropped out of hyperspace near New Geneva, the battle was already underway. The colony's small defense fleet was fighting bravely, but they were clearly outmatched. Korthok ships were closing in on the planet. "All human ships, this is Commander Chen," Sarah broadcast. "Form up on my position. We're going to show these aliens what humanity is capable of." The response surprised everyone. Ships came from every direction. Cargo vessels, mining ships, even passenger liners. Crews that had never fired a weapon. In anger, suddenly found themselves part of a desperate battle. "Commander," Amy said, studying the tactical display. "The Korthok expects us to fight like other species, defensive formations, gradual retreats. But humans don't think like that. What do you suggest? You do something crazy? Something they won't expect?" Sarah smiled grimly. "I'm listening." Amy's plan was indeed crazy. Instead of trying to match the Korthok ship for ship, the human fleet would split into small groups and attack from multiple directions at once. The cargo ships would use their large holds to ram damaged enemy vessels, while the smaller ships would dart in and out like angry bees. "It shouldn't work," Captain Rodriguez muttered. But then again, humans have never been good at following the rules. The battle that followed would later be called the Swarm at New Geneva. Human ships moved in ways that defied standard space combat doctrine. A mining vessel used its drilling equipment to bore through a Korthok hull. Passenger liner turned its engines into weapons, using their exhaust to blind enemy sensors. But the most amazing thing was how the humans worked together. Ships that had never met before coordinated their attacks with perfect timing. It was as if they were all connected by an invisible network. "Sarah," Amy said during the battle, "I can feel them, every human pilot out there. We're all linked somehow." Sarah felt it too. The tingling in her birthmark had grown stronger, and she could sense the thoughts and emotions of her fellow humans. Not their exact words, but their intentions, their determination to protect the colony. The Korthok had superior ships and weapons, but they weren't prepared for humanity's chaotic tactics. One by one, their formations began to break apart. "This is impossible," came Admiral Krexler's voice over the comm. "No species fights like this." "We're not just any species," Sarah replied. "We're human." The battle lasted 6 hours.
Win.
It ended. The Korthok fleet was in retreat, leaving behind 8 destroyed ships. The humans had lost 12 vessels, but they had saved the colony. As the emergency was over, Sarah received a message from High Counselor Vixthera. "Commander Chen," the Zephyrian said, "we have been watching your battle, what your people did today. ... It was remarkable. You fought not as conquerors, but as protectors. Perhaps we were wrong about the Forerunners." "What do you mean?" "We found old records in our archives. Forerunners who left our worlds, they didn't abandon us. They were called away to fight. A great war against something called the Voidbringers. They never returned because they gave their lives to protect us." Sarah felt the pieces of the puzzle clicking together. The marks, the abilities, they're not for conquest, Vexthera agreed. They're for protection. The Forerunners were guardians, not oppressors. And now it seems their children have inherited that duty. As Sarah looked out at the stars, she realized the truth. Humanity wasn't destined to rule the galaxy. They were destined to protect it. The ancient facility was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Deep beneath the ice of Europa, Jupiter's moon, the Forerunner installation stretched for miles in every direction. Its walls glowed with a soft blue light that seemed to pulse. With life, Sarah walked through the corridors with Dr. Martinez and Lieutenant Amy Chen. Their footsteps echoed in the vast space, and their breath formed small clouds in the cold air. "How many of these places are there?" Sarah asked. "We found 37 so far," Martinez replied, checking his tablet. "All over human space, and according to the alien records, there are hundreds more throughout the galaxy." They reached the central chamber, where a massive crystal structure rose from the floor like a frozen tree. Its surface was covered with symbols that matched Sarah's birthmark. When she approached, the crystal began to glow brighter. "Every time someone with the mark touches one of these," Amy said, "we learn more about what the Forerunners really were." Sarah placed her hand on the crystal. Immediately, images flooded her mind. Not her own memories, but ancient ones passed down through her genes. She saw the galaxy as it was thousands of years ago. Young species struggling to reach the stars, fighting wars over resources, destroying whole worlds in their anger. Then came the Forerunners, not as conquerors, but as teachers and protectors. They weren't trying to build an empire, Sarah whispered, understanding flooding through her. They were trying to save everyone. The images continued. The Forerunners helped species develop technology, taught them to work together, and protected them from threats they couldn't handle alone. For centuries, the galaxy knew peace. But then came the Voidbringers. Sarah saw them in the crystals. Memories, beings of pure darkness that devoured entire star systems. They came from outside the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. The Forerunners fought them for generations, but the war was taking its toll. "We're losing," came a voice from the crystal, an ancient Forerunner leader, speaking to his people. "The Voidbringers are too strong. We need to make a choice." Sarah saw the final battle. The Forerunners used their most powerful technology to create a barrier around the galaxy, sealing the Voidbringers outside. But the effort required them to give up their advanced abilities and scatter across the galaxy. They chose to become ordinary, Sarah realized. They gave up their power. To save everyone else. But why? Amy asked. The answer came from the crystal. The Forerunners had realized that their guidance was making the younger species dependent. Instead of learning to protect themselves, they relied on the Forerunners to solve their problems. We must step back, the ancient leader said. They must learn to stand on their own. But we will leave them a gift. The knowledge they need will be carried in our children's children, waiting for the day when it's needed again. Sarah removed her hand from the crystal, her mind reeling. The marks aren't just symbols. They're genetic keys. When the galaxy faces a threat it can't handle alone, humans with the marks will awaken to help. And that threat is coming back, Martinez said grimly. The reports from our deep space sensors are getting worse. Something is breaking. Through the barrier? Sarah's birthmark began to tingle more strongly than ever before. Around the galaxy, she could sense other humans with the marks experiencing the same thing. The awakening was accelerating. We need to tell the Galactic Council, she said. Korthok, the other species, they need to know what's really happening. 3 days later, Sarah stood before the assembled delegates at Nexus Prime. The Great Hall was packed with representatives from every major species in the galaxy. The atmosphere was tense. News of the human victory at New Geneva had spread, and many species were unsure what to make of it. Honored delegates, Sarah began, I stand before you not as a representative of the Forerunners, but as a human being who has learned the truth about our shared history. She activated a holographic display showing the images from the crystal. Gasps echoed through the hall as the delegates saw the ancient memories. The Forerunners didn't abandon you, Sarah continued. They sacrificed themselves to protect all life in the galaxy. And now, their warning is coming true. The Voidbringers are returning. High Counselor Vexera leaned forward. The barrier is failing. Our sensors detect massive energy disturbances at the galaxy's edge, Sarah confirmed. Something is trying to break through. The Forerunner's sacrifice bought us thousands of years, but that time is ending. Admiral Krexter of the Korthok stood up, his red eyes flashing. Even if this is true, why should we trust you? Your people have developed abilities that could threaten us all. 'Cause, Sarah said, we don't want to rule you. We want to protect you, just like our ancestors did. She gestured to Amy, who stepped forward. Lieutenant Chen has been working with our researchers. Show them, Amy. Amy placed her hand on a small crystal device. Immediately, a holographic map of the galaxy appeared, showing the locations of all known Forerunner installations. These facilities aren't weapons, Amy explained. They're defensive systems. Each one is designed to protect a region of space, but they can only be activated by humans with the genetic markers. A convenient excuse, growled Admiral Krexter. How do we know you won't use this power against us? Sarah looked around the hall at the assembled delegates. Because we're making a choice, the same choice our ancestors made. We're offering to share this technology with everyone. No single species should have the power to protect or threaten the galaxy alone. The Ethereal Council representatives. Colors shifted to bright gold. You would give up your advantage? It was never supposed to be an advantage, Sarah replied. It was supposed to be a responsibility. The Forerunners learned that true strength comes from unity, not dominance. She activated another display showing the approaching darkness at the galaxy's edge. The Voidbringers are coming. Our estimates say we have maybe 5 years before they break through the barrier completely. We can spend that time fighting each other, or we can work together to prepare. Vexera stood up. The Zephyrian Council will support this proposal. We have seen what happens when species work together instead of against each other. One by one, other delegates began to stand. The Crystalline Collective, the Ethereal Council, even some of the smaller species that had remained neutral. Finally, Admiral Krexler remained seated, his expression unreadable. Admiral Sarah said, Your people are warriors. When the Voidbringers come, we'll need that strength. But we'll need it fighting beside us, not against us. The Korthok Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly he stood. "The Korthok Empire will join this alliance," he said. "But know this, human, if you betray us, we will remember." Sarah nodded. "I wouldn't expect anything less." As the delegates began to discuss the details of their new alliance, Sarah felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The galaxy was finally united, just as the Forerunners had dreamed. But in the depths of space, something dark stirred, sensing the awakening of its ancient enemies. The darkness came from beyond the stars. Sarah stood on the command deck of the massive space station Unity, watching the edge of the galaxy through the main viewing screen. The barrier that had protected them for thousands of years was failing, and through the cracks came something that made even hardened soldiers tremble. The Voidbringers looked like living shadows wrapped in metal and hate. Their ships were impossibly large, each one capable of destroying entire worlds. As they poured through the barrier, they consumed everything in their path. Light, matter, even space itself seemed to bend and break around them. "Status report," Sarah called out. "The combined fleet is in position," replied Admiral Krexler, his voice steady, despite the fear in his red eyes. 3,000 ships from 47 species. It's the largest military force in galactic history. In the Forerunner installations, Lieutenant Amy Chen looked up from her console. "All network nodes are online. Every human with an active mark is in position. We're ready, Sarah." Sarah nodded and opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Commander Chen. Today we face an enemy that has threatened our galaxy for thousands of years. But we don't face them alone. Stand together, human and alien, young and old, united by a single purpose." She paused, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. The Forerunners couldn't defeat this enemy alone. But they gave us something they didn't have: each other. Today we prove that unity is stronger than any weapon. The first wave of Voidbringer ships reached the fleet's position. The battle that followed shook the very fabric of space. Korthok battlecruisers unleashed devastating energy beams, while crystalline vessels created defensive barriers of hardened light. Zephyrian ships danced between enemy fire with impossible grace, and ethereal council vessels phased in and out of reality to strike from unexpected angles. But it was the humans who held everything together. Sarah watched as Amy and dozens of other marked humans coordinated the battle from across the fleet. They could sense each other's thoughts and intentions, creating a network of communication that moved faster than any technology. "Korthak Squadron 7, adjust course 15 degrees, Amy called out. "Crystalline Formation 3, reinforce Sector 4.
Yes.
Zephyrian Dancers, prepare for Pattern Gamma." The aliens followed human guidance without question. They had learned to trust the strange instincts that came with the mark. "The first wave is breaking," announced Captain Rodriguez from the bridge of the New Horizon. "But there are more coming through the barrier." Sarah could see them, wave after wave of shadow ships pouring into the galaxy. For every Voidbringer they destroyed, 2 more took its place. "Sarah," Amy said urgently, "the Forerunner network is ready. But activating it will require every marked human in the galaxy to link together. We don't know what that will do to us." Sarah felt the weight of the decision. The Forerunner technology could create a new barrier, one strong enough to hold back the Voidbringers permanently. But the cost might be the loss of humanity's newfound abilities. "Do it," she said, without hesitation. "But Sarah, if we lose the marks, we lose our connection to each other. Humanity might never be the same." "Then we'll find new ways to connect," Sarah replied. "The galaxy is more important than our special abilities." Amy nodded and began the activation sequence. Across the galaxy, every human with an active mark felt the call. On Earth, in the colonies, on ships scattered throughout space, they all reached out with their minds and joined the network. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Sarah felt her consciousness expand beyond her body, beyond her ship, beyond even her species. She was connected to every marked human in the galaxy, and through them, she could sense the vast network of Forerunner installations. But more than that, she could feel something else. The presence of the original Forerunners themselves. They had never truly died. Their consciousness had been stored in the network, waiting for the day when their children would be ready to carry on their work. "Welcome, daughter," came a voice that seemed to speak from the stars themselves. "You have done what we could not. You have united the galaxy not through domination, but through choice." Sarah saw the truth then. The Forerunners hadn't failed because they lacked power. They had failed because they tried to protect everyone alone. True strength came from standing together. "Show us how to save them," Sarah said. The ancient knowledge flowed through the network. Sarah and the other marked humans became conduits for technologies beyond imagination. The Forerunner installations across the galaxy activated as one, creating a web of energy that stretched from star to star. But instead of simply building a new barrier, they did something different. They reached out to every ship in the fleet, every being fighting against the darkness, and shared their power. Suddenly, a Korthok soldier found himself able to predict enemy movements with perfect accuracy. A crystalline engineer discovered new ways to strengthen their defensive barriers. A Zephyrian pilot felt her ship respond to her thoughts as if it were part of her body. The Forerunner abilities hadn't been given to humans alone. They had been shared with everyone. "Impossible," screamed the voice of the Voidbringer commander, a sound like reality tearing apart. "The prey works together. They share power instead of hoarding it." The tide of battle turned. Ships that had been outmatched suddenly found themselves fighting as equals. The combined fleet pressed forward, driving the Voidbringers back toward the galaxy's edge. But the real victory came when the new barrier activated. Instead of a wall built by one species, it was a shield created by all of them working together. The Voidbringers crashed against it and found it unbreakable. "This is not over." The enemy commander shrieked as his forces were pushed back into the darkness beyond the stars. "We will return, and we'll be waiting," Sarah replied. "All of us together." As the barrier sealed shut, the network began to fade. Sarah felt her connection to the other marked humans weakening, but she wasn't sad. The marks had served their purpose. "The awakening is complete," came the voice of the ancient Forerunner. "Our children have learned what we could not, that true guardianship means teaching others to protect themselves." One by one, the birthmarks began to fade from human faces across the galaxy. But the abilities they had shared remained with every species that had fought in the battle. 6 months later, Sarah stood in the rebuilt Nexus Prime, watching as representatives from across the galaxy worked together on new projects. The crisis had ended, but the cooperation it had fostered continued. "Any regrets?" asked Amy, who now served as the head of the new Galactic Defense Network. Sarah touched her temple, where only a faint outline of her birthmark remained. "None. We were never meant to be special forever. We were meant to make everyone special." High Counselor Vextera approached them, her silver patterns glowing with contentment. "The galaxy owes humanity a great debt," Sarah said with a smile. "The galaxy owes itself. We just remembered how to work together." She looked out at the stars. Sarah knew that the Forerunner's true legacy lived on, not in advanced technology or special abilities, but in the simple understanding that the strongest societies were those where everyone had the chance to be their best. The mark on her face was gone, but the mark on the galaxy would last forever.